Please help me to reach 1,000 subscribers. If you enjoy the stories I share, please consider subscribing to the channel. Your support is what keeps me going. Now let me take you into today's story. I watched him drive the final nail into the frame of what used to be our dream home. Only now it belonged entirely to him. I stood hidden behind a line of pines, nothing more than a shadow haunting a life I had shattered myself. He never glanced up. Not once. He just kept working, steady, focused, rebuilding a future that no longer included me. It didn't begin this way. For a long time I was convinced we were perfect. I met Ian when I was 25, fresh out of grad school, fueled by ambition and overpriced coffees. He was the quiet kind, the type who listened with his full attention and carried a calmness that made me feel safe just standing near him. No theatrics. No drama. No games. After years wasted on men who treated me like an optional extra, Ian felt like the peace I'd been craving. We moved in together 6 months later. People said we were rushing, but when you feel certain, doubt doesn't matter. Life with him was simple in the best way. He ran a small remodeling business with his best friend and came home every evening dusted in saw shavings, smelling like cedar and clean soap. Meanwhile, I was pushing my way up the ladder in digital marketing, tight deadlines, buzzing phones, endless to-do lists. He grounded me, I encouraged him. Together, we believed we could build something meaningful. And we did, or at least we tried. We bought a plot of land far from the city's noise. Ian promised he'd build our home with his own hands. Every beam, every tile, every corner. The first time he showed me the sketch he'd made on a napkin, I cried. "This is ours," he whispered. But somewhere along the way I wanted more. Not more love, he gave me plenty. More noise, more excitement, more speed. My career began to rise fast. Promotions, travel, new people. People who wore expensive watches and talked in buzzwords. That's when Marcus appeared, a man who was everything Ian wasn't. Flashy, bold, reckless. He didn't build houses, he invested in them. And he made me feel like I was something rare. I convinced myself it was innocent. Just playful attention. A little rush. Nothing that would ever threaten my life with Ian. But then there was that night. One too many drinks after a corporate event. Marcus offered me a ride. We ended up at a hotel bar. Then a room. The night was a blur of bad decisions and guilt settling in my stomach before anything was even over. I swore it was a lapse in judgment. One mistake. I came home, locked myself in the shower, and cried until my skin stung. Ian held me afterward, thinking I was stressed from work. He rubbed my shoulders and murmured, "I'm here." But it wasn't the last time. The affair became a habit. Dangerous, intoxicating, addictive. I kept telling myself I'd stop. That I'd fix everything once the house was done. That I just needed to get it out of my system. I never got the chance. One Tuesday he was home early, much earlier than usual. I turned from my laptop and saw him in the doorway, pale and silent. His phone glowed in his hand. He had read everything. Every message. Every lie. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't break anything. He just stared at me like he no longer recognized the person he had chosen to love. "I was building a life for us," he said quietly. "And you were tearing it down." Then he walked out. No suitcase. No shouting. No final conversation. Just silence. 2 weeks later, the only thing I got from him was a letter from a lawyer. Papers removing my name from anything connected to the property. The land had always been in his name. And just like that, I vanished from the future we were creating. I tried reaching him, calls, texts, showing up where he worked. Nothing. His business partner eventually told me to stop coming. So I watched from the hill instead. Every morning he was out there before sunrise. Hammering. Cutting wood. Measuring. Alone. Always alone. I kept bracing for some new woman to appear, but she never did. It was just Ian in the house that should have been ours. Piece by piece the home took shape. Walls rose. Windows went in. The deck came last. Watching him work on it felt like watching someone rebuild a life after a fire, one I had started. My guilt isolated me. Friends drifted. People stopped replying. Once word spread, I became the cautionary tale no one wanted to stand near. I moved back to the city into a cramped apartment with thin walls. I tried drowning myself in work, burying the emptiness with back-to-back projects. Nothing helped. A year passed. Through a mutual friend, I learned Ian had finished the house, fully furnished, painted, decorated. He even held an open house so the community could see what he had created. I went, standing at the back of the crowd where he wouldn't notice. People praised him, admired every corner of the home. A few asked, "Is your wife here?" He simply smiled and said, "No, it's just me." No bitterness. No heartbreak. Just acceptance. That night, I wrote him a letter, An apology with no excuses. I told him he deserved better than what I gave. I told him I watched him rebuild what I destroyed and that he did it with dignity and strength. But I never sent it. I burned it because I realized the words were not for him, they were for me. Watching Ian rebuild from the ruins taught me something I had been too blind to see. Real love isn't loud or dramatic. It's steady. It's choosing someone even in the quiet moments, the boring days, the slow seasons. I didn't choose him when it mattered. And he taught me what the consequences of that choice look like, not through revenge but through resilience. I wrecked everything. And he rebuilt everything just without me.